This podcast sometimes uses strong language, and it may cover topics that require viewer discretion. Also, it's a podcast. It's not a primary source of information. If you'd like to follow along visually with the show, or read any of the papers we talk about yourself, you can find all of those links and more at ridiculousresearchreview.com.
Yeah, I'm also recording. Yeah, now that we're done talking like nerds, it's time to talk like nerds.
Nerd
Is that what you're saying?
time.
Okay.
So scientists found an extremely powerful sound that couldn't be made by animals, but was recorded from the deep sea.
Damn.
What?
Damn.
I mean,
Damn.
isn't there's versions of this I've heard before.
I'm
like
sure you have. This is actually a fairly
Blue
famous
Note or
story.
something?
It's just a really
Yeah.
terrible headline for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
This headline was actually just last month. However, it is
Wow.
reporting, if you can call it that, on a story from like 2005, and going all the way back to 1997, when a mysterious sound called the bloop was
Yes,
recorded,
I know the bloop.
and it truly just sounds like a good old bloop. And no one knew what this sound was. It took them roughly 8 years to figure it out when NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, put some microphones in the Pacific to try and listen to volcanic activity. And they found it's just the noise that icebergs make when they crack or they drop a piece of ice in the water. It's literally the sound of an ice cube plunking into a glass of water.
You mean it's
That's
not
all
the
it is.
Leviathan?
It's not the Leviathan. It's just...
It's not Cthulhu waking up or turning over in his sleep?
No, it
Wait,
really isn't.
So we solved this mystery years ago, and then they wrote another clickbait article about it now?
Correct.
The internet is so
Thanks,
good.
Lad Bible.
That's great. The internet's healthy and good, and nothing's wrong with it for sure.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's how that one's gonna start. It's
And that's
gonna be us going good.
That's where we're
Well, here's some non-scientific misinformation. It's the Ridiculous Research Review.
I don't know that we can say that too definitively.
I'm James Lynch. Dr. James Lynch, PhD, PE, too many letters because I did too much school. I'm an engineer. I've done research. I like reading papers. And with me today are my two best buds.
I'll go. I'm Pat Brennan. I am a technical director for theater and a professor at Pace University, as well as a game designer, among other things. Here to talk about science.
And I'm Edie Churchill. I'm a nonprofit administrator and general hobbyist and one of James's best buds.
We're just some best buds.
We're three best buds.
We're just three best buds.
I did not acquiesce to this.
You don't get to.
You don't have to. My God, you think you can? You think you're not my best bud? You idiot!
You think you have a choice?
That's crazy.
Bring me my science.
We're gonna talk about floating today.
Floating.
Just the general...
Oh, yes, James, this is what I thought you were doing, and I'm very excited about it. I almost did this one myself.
I'm glad we didn't overlap.
The worst part about this show is watching you two slowly learn all the things that you could do on PowerPoint or Canva or whatever thing that you're using this week. So it says floating. I've got a picture of a frog, and then James has included two clips from the Stephen King film It.
Oh yeah, pictures of Pennywise, folks.
Horrifying.
And
yeah, okay, that's fair.
It's the we all float down here nonsense.
Yeah, exactly. You know. I will say, a lot more lighthearted than starting with Pennywise would make you think, but we'll get there. So,
Okay.
Big picture for a second though. I love the Ig Nobel Prizes. Since 1991, it is a lighthearted awards ceremony given to research that makes you laugh and then makes you think. Literally is the inspiration for this podcast. I always loved reading the Ig Nobel Prizes, and it is a lot of fun to dive into something that seems weird and think about why they did it in the first place. Hence the whole podcast, really. That's our whole idea. The paper that we're talking about today received the 2000 Ig Nobel Prize in Physics. So, I'm going to show a video to Pat and Edie and ask them to kind of narrate what's going on.
Okay, we got a science man. Is that liquid nitrogen, maybe? He's supercooling something, it looks like to me.
That's
or
correct.
superheating it, one or the other. Cooling.
Yeah, it's liquid nitrogen. He's cooling it.
That looks like a magnetic coil of some sort that he's fiddling with.
Mm-hmm. Got a camera.
Those are frogs.
They are tiny. They're less than an inch long.
They're
little
guys,
baby frogs.
Itty bitty.
And that's a frog flying in the air.
Yeah, he's just floating in there. He doesn't seem to like it.
Well, I think he seems remarkably chill for a frog that's just floating in the air.
Yeah. I mean, what else is he gonna do?
I guess that's true. There's not much you can do about it. That
Ugh,
has too many legs to be a frog. What the fuck is that?
That's a grasshopper. I don't like that. The grasshopper is decidedly less chill about the situation. Nope.
Way less chill.
Grasshoppers, those are flowers.
That's
now
pretty.
we're floating flowers.
That's actually pretty sweet. I like that one. Flowers floating.
Let's stay there. Let's never go back to any of the other ones.
Yeah.
What?
So what?
He's explaining that they could do it, like there would be no problems to do it to a man, so we could do it to you, like you could float us with the magnets.
That's exactly what he says, and that is exactly what he means.
What?
So we've seen scientists.
If there's no problems, why have I never seen them float a man this way?
I was gonna say that does say 1997. Why have I not floated in a tube by magnets?
Yeah, I mean that's a really good question, and the scientists need to answer for it. But
Hey, I bet we could start a new age spa with this exact premise, and we could get investors for sure. Realign your poles or whatever.
Yeah,
Come
we
on
got
down.
this.
so here's I'm curious. What do y'all think? Why the hell would they be? Why would you float frogs and a grasshopper and some flowers in a big magnet? Why would you do that?
Because if you fire a frog at high enough velocity from space, you can annihilate the Soviets.
Oh, that's one idea. Yeah, just post Cold War. Yeah.
I truly don't know why they started doing this or what they're trying to achieve by doing this. I have seen reference in other corners of weird science internet where they have talked about like the standard unit of energy to float a frog. Now I'm going to assume that has something to do with this.
Almost certainly, because the thing is that this was a very big, it's a big science communication story, because being able to go and show a picture of a frog floating in midair inside of a giant magnet means that anytime you hear about magnetic levitation for maglev trains or bearings or anything else, you almost always see this picture of the frog levitating. And a big part of it is that's part of the reason why they got the Ig Nobel Prize in 2000 in physics for this. But the real question is why were you doing this in the first place? Well, let's start with the who here. So it turns out that the researcher that we saw at the end of the video, who was saying that it is fully possible to levitate a human this way, is Sir Andre Geim, who is a British-Dutch physicist, a solid-state physicist, meaning he works with solid materials, actually is a Nobel Prize winner. In 2010, got the Nobel Prize for Physics for his work on graphene, which is a layer of carbon atoms that is 1 atom thick. It is the world's thinnest material, and also one of the strongest and most flexible, and is also happens to be conductive. At the time, it was very compelling as a research study of a brand new technology. But he didn't start any of that work until significantly after the video that we just watched, where they're floating frogs. For that work, he received the 2000 Ig Nobel Prize for physics for this other thing.
So this man has gotten an Ig Nobel Prize and a Nobel Prize, and he did the Ig Nobel first.
Yeah.
Yeah, first get the weird one first.
That's a wild hold my beer. He's like, first, I'm a disgrace to the science community. Next, graphene. You're welcome.
That's exactly it. I love this guy for exactly this reason. Yeah, because he's doing real science, real impactful stuff, and also had a big old magnet. Okay,
Big ass magnet.
it is a really big magnet. I cannot state just how big this magnet is. Okay, so I want to give you the unit for strength of a magnet is a Tesla. The typical magnet on your fridge is 0.1 or lower Tesla. So a Tesla's pretty big, already pretty strong magnet. The strongest magnets you've ever held in your hand are less than 2 Tesla. So really strong neodymium magnets are like 1.5 Tesla.
Okay.
This is an electric coil where they're running 20,000 amps through the electric coil.
It's a lot of amps.
That is 2/3 of the way to a lightning bolt worth of current.
It's a really significant amount of amps.
It's a huge amount of amps. If you got 1 amp from your right hand through to your left hand, you die. 20,000 of those, okay? It's a huge amount of energy.
I'm starting to sense why I've never been floated in a magnet tube.
Hey.
It's perhaps because it requires the amount of energy to like light up a city block.
It's more than that, actually. We'll get to that later.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
So 20,000 amps moving through these electric coils creates a 20 Tesla magnet. So that is 1,000 times stronger than your fridge magnet. It is an incredibly powerful magnet.
How many Teslas is, say, the magnet in an MRI machine?
That's on the order of 10.
10. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
at the high end.
Okay, so this is well past will rip the metal out of your body from surgery's level.
Absolutely. Yeah.
No piercings in the spine.
No.
No piercings in the magnet tube.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I'm showing a diagram of this thing. You can picture just like kind of concentric coils of copper. That is where the electricity runs. But there's only a 3.2 centimeter, which is only about an inch and a half, or inch and a quarter, actually. Like an inch and a quarter channel through the middle where the actual magnetic field is. And the whole thing is being cooled by water, or in the video we saw, liquid nitrogen, because it needs to be, you have to be flushing the heat out of this as fast as you can.
Stupid hot.
Yeah, there's a ton of energy going through here, right? And so the actual magnetic field only occurs in this tiny little column down the center of this thing. And so as they were running, like, they are solid state physicists. So they're people who are looking at crystal structures and at atomic lattices. And they're doing research using these big magnets to understand how materials form when subject to really, really strong magnetic fields. But as they're doing these tests, they intentionally or otherwise put a little bit of water into the column in the middle. And what they see is that the water floats.
So James is showing a bunch of videos of water inside of this like magnet channel, like in the center of the magnet, and the water, kind of looks like what it would look like in space. It forms a droplet and it's just
Chilling.
floating in the middle.
Exactly. And you're exactly right. It's acting as if it is in space. Because it's floating using a property of everything that's made of atoms has a property called diamagnetism. And diamagnetism is interesting because it was something that was first described in like the mid 1800s by a guy named Michael Faraday, who was a huge
Faraday cage, dude.
Exactly, yeah. Faraday cage is named after him. it was described, but then was basically said, well, this is like 1,000,000,000 times less magnetic, less significant than ferromagnetism, which are the magnets that you think of as like the magnets on your wall, or these neodymium magnets are ferromagnetic. It's 1,000,000,000 times less strong than that. So they're like, well, we know it exists, but it's not going to really do anything. Then in the 30s, 1939, somebody described using a strong magnet and floating graphite and bismuth in midair, because the diamagnetism opposes any magnetic field that's applied to it. And so if you direct that magnetic field upward, you can get things to float. And then everybody forgot about it for about 50 years.
Until the 90s, when a Norwegian man decided to float a frog.
Well, here they were floating water first.
Okay.
And what I want to get across here is that we've heard of like maglev trains and stuff. Those use permanent magnets and fast switching electromagnets. So the electronics are really complicated because you have to have large amounts of current moving in one direction and then switch it and move it in opposite direction in order for them to float. So like any kind of maglev train is really complicated to control.
But it's all using ferromagnets and not this diamagnetism.
Exactly. The diamagnetism is different in the sense that it always repels the magnetic field, and which means that with a large enough magnetic field, you can apply a force that exactly balances with gravity. And when you say these water droplets, therefore, look like they're floating through space, because they literally are the net force from gravity and the magnetic field is equal. They are in microgravity. They are behaving as if they're in space.
James, you've answered the age-old science question now. What are magnets and how do they work?
Yeah. Yeah, kinda. The actual explanations for like why is this able to happen are unfortunately quantum mechanics, which I don't know anything about, honestly.
I've chosen not to believe in.
Yeah. But
this podcast takes a hard stance against quantum mechanics.
so with this really strong magnet, they're like, wow, how cool is this? And like in interviews, Andre Geim has said like, yeah, these were just mesmerizing. And I was like looking at these, and then they were thinking about, well, if we can float water droplets, what else? I mean, everything is a little bit diamagnetic. What else?
And I will admit, this would be my next thought upon seeing water float like this. I'd be like, what else can I put in there? I don't know how we got to frog.
What else could we float? And so literally he describes it, he gave a talk at Harvard and describes it as like in the lab on a Friday night after a couple of beers thinking, what could we float in there? And his wife suggests a frog.
Oh, so the wife is the problem.
So what they
She's
do,
the monster.
They float.
She has the truly the catalog of all known objects, and she starts with frog.
Behind every good scientist is an evil woman.
They float pieces of pizza. They float graphite, pieces of wood. They float little tiny bits of cheese. They float a hazelnut. They go to the biology department and get baby frogs.
They're like, what do you guys got? We gotta jam it into this tube.
I do want to point out here what James has done, because what we have that Pat and I are viewing is looping videos of a frog levitating, a strawberry levitating, a grasshopper, a tomato, and an acorn just levitating, and then clip art of a pencil pizza and cheese spinning in the corner.
I guess you couldn't find those videos.
Those videos don't exist. They did do them. I want to say
hold on. It makes you wonder, like, so they have the things that they recorded floating. They have the things that they tell you the story that they floated.
What did they put in the tube?
What are the forbidden objects they floated?
Yeah,
what's in there? What did they do?
Put something in there they didn't admit to.
Hey, it's a good question. Who knows?
James, they got so far down this rabbit hole, they went to the biology department and was like, hey y'all, what do you got to put in this tube? So, like,
I mean, lots of
you
things.
telling me there was there not another department in that building? Like, they didn't go, like, I don't even know. Like,
They were like, what could we float with this? And I want to call out that the only way I was able to access these videos, which I am going to we're going to share in the show notes as usual, but I'm so happy they still exist, is that they were recorded by the Internet Archive in the Wayback Machine.
yep.
And the modern website for this university does not have these anymore. So
The Wayback Machine saves us once again.
if you got $10, give it to the Internet Archive. They are doing such important work. I could watch this cherry tomato floating around in a magnetic field that's 1,000 times stronger than a fridge magnet all day. It's wonderful.
James is a very strange man. I could not watch this tomato all day. I've watched this tomato for the last 45 seconds, and I'm bored with it already.
Well, have you considered having more wonder at the world?
I agree. I agree. I think you gotta look into yourself there, Edie.
Well, hey, it's just that it's the tomato, the strawberry. I could watch that strawberry for years.
The strawberry is great because it is like, it's not symmetrical, so the pointed side of the strawberry is facing downward, and it just kind of is bobbing around like a buoy, and it is very beautiful. I like it a lot.
Which actually brings a question. Do these things ever reach a point of rest? Right? Like, I assume that they're like wiggling around in there because when the thing activated, they started moving around. Do they ever like... Or does like something about the magnetism keep them moving?
Well, no, it's actually an interesting question. They have found a stable point in this sort of energy field. Stability is complicated to define, but the main idea is that there's a point where if you move away from that point, it pushes you back towards that point. There's actually no requirement that the like amount that it pushes back makes you sit still at that point. Yeah, there's actually, so stability is defined as there is a point that you will never move very far away from given infinite time.
Sure.
These will always oscillate just a little bit because of air currents, because of asymmetries, because of like, there is actually current being generated inside of these things.
Hey, there's a lot of current being put into this thing.
Yeah, and that's actually how electromagnets work, is that you can induce currents in other objects with a magnetic field. So like there's a lot of like dynamic stuff going on. Clearly with like the frog and the grasshopper, they are kicking off the sides, especially the grasshopper really hates them.
He does not like it.
He does not
Someone
like
let
it.
him out of the tube.
My theory is that a frog is more used to floating, having been in water before.
That frog just accepts his fate.
It's like, I guess here I am.
It's the grasshopper's first day in the biology department. The frog's been through the ringer a bit.
Yeah. So we've kind of talked about that they were doing materials research, but like, what else could this diamagnetic effect be actually useful for? And the answers to this were really interesting to me, especially considering that we're talking about something that is now almost 30 years old. It is clearly like physics research is always like way ahead of any kind of product. But here, the sorts of things that they were pointing towards were using this, you could make very sophisticated measurements of gravity at a particular local location, which I thought was really interesting because basically if you moved into a different gravitational field but kept the magnetic field the same, the exact point of stability would change, and you could measure the difference in gravity at a particular point, which is kind of neat. Another one was, there are a couple that were ideas for space. A project proposal from the NASA Jet Propulsion Lab that basically says we could put a magnetic track on the ground on the moon and have a little tray made of graphite or other material that has a diamagnetic properties, and then put stuff on the track, and now you have a frictionless track that you can kind of push this tray of stuff down the track without any moving parts at all, which could be fun.
Seems highly impractical for so many reasons.
That was my thought too.
But
could be fun. Could definitely be fun.
But that levitation means that there would be zero friction and no moving parts.
Right, but at the same point, like, if you could do that, why wouldn't you use that in an application like a high-speed train?
You might. Like, that's one of the other possible...
You might, except we haven't, and there's got to be a reason for that.
Yeah, the
it's power.
requirement.
It's power. You need...
Yeah, it takes an incredible amount of power.
So there's your impractical bit. You need a fucking nuclear generator to make this frictionless track.
I was going to say, like, we were assuming... This is a good opportunity of saying, like, why haven't we seen this applied broadly? Well, it turns out that these things scale, the magnets that they use to make these really high magnetic fields, scale really poorly. Mostly because of heat, because you need an insane amount of current. So the estimate the estimate for lifting a human being is that you would need not a 16 or 17 Tesla magnet, but a 45 Tesla magnet. And it would probably take a gigawatt of continuous power to deal with the cooling necessary.
Those numbers are so insane at a scale. Like, I know that I can't wrap my head around, like, the fathom of what that scale means, but I know it is just
Big.
literally laughable.
Real big.
It's just enormous.
So a kilowatt hour is one... Wait, let me get this right. Kilowatt, megawatt, gigawatt. Kilowatt hour is 1/1,000,000th of a gigawatt hour. So we're talking 1,000,000 times larger than the kind of unit that is used for your house. So we're talking millions of homes. Millions of homes worth of power.
So we're probably not powering a track with this thing.
And we're probably not going to we're not going to have a real anti-gravity machine until we can find a way to not have this stuff heat up.
Yeah, free energy first, then...
It appears at a quick Google search that even a nuclear power plant that is a 1 gigawatt nuclear power plant is intended to create that 1 gigawatt over the course of a year.
Yeah. It's continuous power generation of that scale. It's not really what we're doing right now. So unlikely. That's unlikely. The other thing that they were looking at, and this one actually feels a lot more realistic to me, is one of the neat things that about diamagnetism that they bring up is that it's not, it's not like a big fan pushing up on you that makes you feel weightless. Even with repelling magnets, it's a bulk effect. What's going on in diamagnetism is that at the atomic level, gravity is being canceled, which means it is a near, not exactly, but very close to perfect simulation of microgravity. And what that means is that if you want to study how things behave in microgravity, you can do so in your lab without having to send things into space.
Yeah.
It is actually harmless to living things as far as they can tell. The frog was sent back to the biology lab unharmed and seemed fine.
If mildly confused.
Mildly confused, but pretty much fine. So you could study how seeds germinate when there isn't a signal from gravity. You could look at crystal growth for, like, if you want to study, how things would be different in manufacturing of materials.
You'd have to power that magnet for quite a long time for a seed to germinate, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question, because it's like, is it more cost effective than, the International Space Station, which is, again, like, the money behind that. If you go back to the history of that thing, like, terrifying amounts of resources, right? Like, just like tremendous amounts of resources put into that thing. Is it more efficient to power one of these magnets?
Absolutely.
Than just fly it up there?
Because we're not talking about the like that 45 Tesla one, right? We're not talking about that. We're talking about stuff that you can have in your lab. It takes up a room, and maybe they, like, in 1997 dollars, it was described as being like $100,000, which
that's
on the order of magnitude that you could maybe do something with this.
Yeah.
Yep.
And since then, there have been papers that came out of the Jet Propulsion Lab at NASA where they actually are starting to make a slightly bigger one that's able to float, for example, a mouse, which is closer.
We have a picture of a floating mouse.
We do have a picture of a floating mouse.
Your scientists have mostly found a way to confuse small animals.
Yeah, but with this, you could float this mouse for like a week during early development and see how bone and muscle development are affected by gravity. Which is a little messed up, but we do a lot of messed up things to
float this mouse for a week.
We could look because hey, I can't defend. I don't know enough to defend research on mice, except that they are close enough to humans that we do a lot of shit to mice.
You could take a fruit fly and put it in the freezer, and then take that frozen fruit fly and put it in the tube, and then
yeah, and then when it wakes up from being frozen, it's in microgravity, and it's not going to know what's going on, and then we can do science about that. We'll find a question to ask and get it published in Nature. Come on.
Perfect.
So yeah, this is one of the quintessential like Ig Nobel Prize stories. Especially considering that this is a guy who is not just messing around.
Well,
in big science terms, he eventually got the Nobel Prize.
He did get a Nobel Prize.
For something different. Let's be clear, it was not for this.
For something different.
Oh, yeah, wait a minute. Hold on. I got tricked for a second. Yeah, wait a minute. Thank you, Edie. He didn't get a Nobel Prize for this.
He got a Nobel Prize for something else. But what I'm saying is that this is a serious scientist. This is a guy...
This is a man who became a serious scientist. He did this first.
He was a serious scientist the whole time, okay? This is... because serious scientists...
Debatable, and we're gonna debate it.
Okay. I'm gonna read... I read this really interesting article that I'll put in the notes about a talk that he gave at Harvard to a bunch of scientists and future scientists. And... his main message to people was to not take themselves too seriously. Finding knowledge is a lot of fun. And specifically, he said that his dabbling with levitation was well worth the time, trouble, and money spent. After all, it was fun sorting out the physics and finding new collaborators along the way. And he also showcased a piece of fan mail from a then 9-year-old budding scientist requesting more information about how you got the frog to float. So this is both opening people's eyes to the what is actually possible with diamagnetism, and then also getting people to think about the fact that there is this force that is everywhere, that every material is subject to, but we don't notice it because it's usually so very, very small.
I don't know, James. You've used this argument of getting the kids into science a couple times now.
Hey, so did Pat, okay?
But it does seem like all the science is just nonsense.
My whole paper was about that, though.
Yeah, so did Pat. Don't call me out like that. That's
Okay. Time for ridiculous versus research. Edie, is this ridiculous?
It's pretty ridiculous. Right? It's got to be.
I mean, it's fine. Okay. Here's where it moved from a 4 to a 5 for me, because it was a solid 4 all the way through. But then the energy of, we had a couple of beers, and then we went around to the other departments to see what they had in their labs to see if we could float that too. That makes it a 5 for me.
Yeah, I think I'm still at a 4 because of the amount of work that's necessary to build the magnet itself and get this machine to work. There was a lot of science, and then once they did the science, they were like, "All right, now what can I put in the tube?"
Can I support that with a picture of the paper I did not subject you to? Okay.
Oh my god. James is showing us a series of graphs that I'm sure he loves.
So many graphs, lots of equations, and those equations are all letters. There's not a single number in them.
Yeah, it's not even just letters; it's symbols. Okay, there's gradient.
Yeah.
We got gradients going on. We got gradients.
There's some serious math happening.
It is serious math, right? Look, we're using a psi in here.
Yeah,
okay?
this is way past the it's just for funsies. This is serious math.
Because what they were doing here is not just figure out how to do this. Because they're physicists, they did the math and they figured out why this is possible. Because fundamentally, some folks would have probably argued that it shouldn't be possible.
At the same time,
for this to work.
They did all that math so that they could put a frog in a tube.
It's both. It's both, which is why I will take a 4. I think a 4 is good.
I'm on a 4. I'm pretty solidly on that 4.
All right. 4 ridiculous.
I think it's a 4 and ridiculous because it is a little silly to start putting pizza and frogs and tomatoes in there.
It's hilarious. Yeah. It's wild. They went and got a grasshopper. They're like, that'll do. Yep. Get him in the tube. And then NASA liked it so much they were like, we'll build a bigger one so we can get a mouse in there.
That is what happened. All right, now we have to be like, our terrible research metric here. Is this relevant to your life? Are you going to think about the fact that you were lightly diamagnetic?
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
all the time.
I think I'm going to think about that a lot.
I'm going to think about that constantly. And, talking about like bodies of research kind of a thing, this is the body of research in a field which, while not practical or applicable right now, could eventually lead to the realist version of anti-gravity.
Yeah.
That I've ever seen an actual case for. And if you crack that nut, that changes everyone's every day.
Yeah, we just have to find a way to get infinite power all the time.
Right, or find a way to scale.
The problem is heat. So if you could have wires made of something that had zero resistance, which is something that does happen it does happen. It's a superconducting wire, has zero. I think literally zero resistance. I don't quote me on that. Anybody who's listening to this, but semiconductors are wild and seem to break a whole bunch of rules. The problem is that all the semiconductors we know of need liquid helium cooling. And helium is a finite resource on the Earth. So
sure is. Which is why we put it in balloons.
Yeah, I love that we do that. And it's not going to cause any problems.
Makes your voice real squeaky. It's fun.
It's fun. But what I'm saying is, like, if you can find that all that energy, all the power comes from needing to cool the damn thing. So if you could, if anybody out there wants to be a materials scientist and figure out how to make superconducting wires that work at room temperature or close to it, that is like that's a Nobel Prize and like world-changing technology if it ever comes to pass.
And Sir Norway von Frogfloater wants to talk to you.
Yes.
He's going to be able to float his entire aquarium when your project is done.
Yeah, so where does this sit on research for you?
I want to say 3. I want to say higher than, or maybe.
I was almost at a 4. I was honestly
I
like.
could go 4.
I was thinking this might be one that is just even on both scales. It's a 4.
I think it is
4-4.
Yeah, I think this one is a 4-4.
That's good science and it's completely insane.
Well done.
Well done. There's a reason why this guy got both the Nobel and the Ig Nobel. It's a good scientist.
Yeah, I mean, what a cool dude.
Yeah. Yeah.